I've always enjoyed having a natter with Carly. Not only does she have deep insight into many areas that are of real interest to me, but her energy, enthusiasm, and humor are energizing and infectious. I always come away feeling better after being in her company. I'm sure you have similar people in your life who, without effort, can brighten your day and make you feel more positive. It's a reminder to us to be grateful for those people and also ask ourselves the question, how do we leave people feeling after our interactions with them? As you will hopefully know by now, if you've seen other episodes, this segment of the podcast is all about wisdom worth sharing. At the end of every interview, I look back as part of the editing process and discover some of the gems that came out during the conversation, and I summarize them here. You'll recall that Carly said as she went through school and got older that she wanted to blend in more, worrying about what people would think of her. Maybe this is a consequence of the culmination of our experiences and the way that we find our way in environments such as school. What's wrong with standing out? Why do we feel the need to conform to social norms? Often, the outcome is what we become: boxed. I'm reminded of a song called Boxes by Charlie Winston. It's a beautiful song. You should look it up on Spotify. I think there are lessons that maybe of value in there. To be honest, I think the younger generations of today have started to work this out. So maybe we older ones could learn from them. Worrying about what others think is really constraining. And we all need to learn and to care less about what people think about us. Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, is good for this if you haven't read it. We only have so many fucks to give, so he says, and so we need to use them wisely. Carly talked about people telling her she couldn't do something. The opinions of others can either be motivating, as it was for Carly, or cause us to be hurt and feel sorry for ourselves. This depends on our mindset. As Carly put it, it's not what was said, it's what you heard, which I think is really insightful. If we tend to be negatively geared, we'll interpret the words of others in a negative way, often imagining what they meant and putting ourselves down in the process. When someone pays us a compliment, we take it without too much thought or question about their motives. But when someone says something that we don't like, we interpret it as negative. We make it all about us. Self doubt appears immediately. And instead of questioning why that person sees the world the way that they do, we assume that they're right. A bit like when Carly relayed the story of someone accusing her of being disingenuous because of her flamboyant style, when actually she was just being in her element. Carly could have gone home and stewed on that, but she chose not to. The opinion of one person, a stranger, can have such an impact on us if we let it. We cannot control what people say or why they say it, but we do have the opportunity to control how we choose to receive it and how we choose to feel about it. I found it interesting that as a young girl, Carly was wanting to be in a role that provided the opportunity for fame, and yet later in life, when she had it, that wasn't important to her. I think this is a good point to raise. The things that people do and are prepared to do these days, particularly online, to achieve fame and fortune, could cause some distress later in life. We tend to focus on the here and now. It's hard to imagine that we may change our focus and want something else later in life. But at some point in the future, when we do, what we've done will stick around as our recorded history. This doesn't just apply to being famous, of course. Any goal can take us to a place we believed would be great, but turns out otherwise. I think back to when I was younger and the advice I chose not to hear. It's almost like we need to experience or discover some things for ourselves, and other things, well, maybe not. For instance, we don't need to fall out of a tree to know that it'll hurt. But when it comes to lessons in life, we need to establish what works for us. Remember, the process, the journey, that's where we learn and create our own wisdom to then apply to future goals. As Albert Camus said, maybe it's not about a happy ending, maybe it's about the story. So, enjoy the creation of your story. Don't rush and miss opportunities to learn along the way. I think I'll end on Carly's answer to the question about what she would say to a teenage version of herself now that she's become a bit wiser. Carly said, Do the inner work. Figure out what you like about yourself and then trust that. This is a powerful statement. There's work in here, of course, primarily because we can be hard on ourselves and not willing to admit what we're good at or what we like about ourselves. We can and do spend much time worrying about what we don't like about ourselves, which seems to be the human condition, instead of focusing on our positives, our strengths. We all have them. If more of us did this, then maybe we could be less stressed, spend less time yearning for more. We could be more contented and lead happier lives. As Carly's t-shirt said, live your best life. Hopefully, you've been able to take many insights away from this interview that you can apply to some aspect of your own life, work, and legacy. Use them, share them. As I always say, sharing is like teaching, and teaching helps us retain what we've learned and enables us to commit to change, which is necessary if we want to enhance our own life's work. I hope that you're happy, safe, and successful in all that you do. And remember, live a life that's a story worth retelling. I'm Steve Worsley, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Life's Work. The podcast's all about wisdom worth sharing.